friends, getting to do it with friends. Maybe that accountability would be an extra layer for you that would make a co-op valuable. Another thing that we have found that is valuable being in a co-op is the positive peer pressure. So, for instance, I'm going to use Shakespeare because we just talked about that, but oh Mom, why do we have to read Shakespeare? Well, guess what? Johnny is also reading Shakespeare, and so Johnny and June, sorry, I couldn't come up with another name. You know, they might be sitting next to each other and hear something about Shakespeare, and they're like, hey, I have to do that too, you have to do that too. And then suddenly, Mom, you're maybe not such the bad guy anymore because other moms are making their kids do some hard things that are challenging. They're asking them to narrate things and talk out loud in front of their siblings. So that positive peer pressure, that doing something hard together is sometimes a good thing and needed. So your plan, what do you need to think through? You know, you've kind of already identified the who by this point and maybe the what. So now you need to have the when and the where. Some co-ops meet weekly, some meet bi-weekly, some meet once a month. It depends, again, on your purpose. What are we doing? What's the purpose of what we're doing? What do we need? Co-ops can meet outside. Clearly, if you're a nature study co-op, meeting outside is brilliant. Some co-ops meet inside in homes. Some can meet at a church, sometimes at a park. Sometimes libraries will allow you to use a room. So kind of you have to think through, like, where are we going to go? Subjects you'll cover. Some subjects work well in a co-op and some don't. It's hard to do narration with a group of 12. It can be done, but it's sometimes difficult, and then the temptation is that your lessons go longer than that 20 minutes if you're having all these kids narrate. So really think through your subjects. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Leadership. The co-op that we started doesn't really have a leader. We're all in leadership, but we have a point person. We have a person that kind of takes care of the communication and kind of ruffles feathers when it's time to get together to plan something or whatever. So, and if there's bad weather and we need to cancel, or if somebody's sick and we need to, you know, adjust who's teaching what. So kind of think through those things. The other thing you need to think about when you're planning is a division of labor. Is everybody going to teach, or is somebody just going to teach the, you know, the upper form and somebody's going to take care of the little form? If there are pre-form children, so like babies and toddlers, what are we doing with them? Who's keeping an eye on them? What are they going to do? Are they just going to have open-ended play the entire time? Are we going to try to sing some songs with them? What things could they join the rest of the group for? Cost is always an issue with co-ops. Depending on where your facility is, obviously if you're meeting outside at a park, it's probably not going to cost anything unless you're reserving a shelter house or something. If you're meeting in someone's home, that may not cost you anything, but it's costing the homeowner, so you might consider an occasional donation of toilet paper. The other thing that might incur a cost is materials. If you're doing any type of handicraft, usually Charlotte Mason moms have really good ways to print things, right? Like we have cheap options for printing. So I don't know that, you know, you have to go, well, I made 4 copies for class, so everyone needs to give me a dime. But there are costs involved with co-ops, so you need to think about how you're going to deal with that. Handicrafts are going to be obviously more expensive. If you're pulling in any science things that kids are going to do, you're going to have a lot of materials, and those things are going to be expensive. What our co-op just recently did was we went to $10 per family per semester, and that just kind of goes into a fund, which is literally going to be a zipper pouch. And then when you have something that you need reimbursed for, just bring a receipt, take out. We also said everybody bring your $10 in ones. So take out what you need and put the receipt in the bag. We're not going to have a treasurer and all of that stuff. So we're pretty small. So anyway, so that's an option. And then we decided, like, okay, at the end of the semester, we can either, if we have leftover, we can either just flow that into next, you know, the second semester and have, you know, another chunk of money, or we could use that for some type of an end of the semester celebration. So kind of have that fund or that idea. Another thing that would be important to plan is expectations. What kind of expectations do you have for the dress code? Sometimes homeschoolers all think we think the same thing about modesty, and we don't. So that might need to be a conversation before it's a problem. What about, are you going to ask the kids to raise their hands or not raise their hands? Are you going to ask the kids to only use bathroom at bathroom breaks? Or are you going to let them get up at subject changes? Like, that's just something just logistically that you have to think through. Are you going to do the Pledge of Allegiance before you start? Are you going to open in prayer? If you have high schoolers, you might want to address how they should act if they're dating. Not that I know anything about that. If you're going to have food and snacks, is that everybody's bringing snacks for their own family? Or Jessica's bringing it this week and Jennifer's bringing it next week, and then you've got to deal with food allergies. That's the gamut right now. So food allergy is an issue. You can do special events and field trips. You could have a field trip only co-op. I mean, you could just have a co-op that just does field trips together. Charlotte Mason feeling field trips. You can have an end of the year celebration. You could have, we did a mother-daughter cookie exchange Christmas tea last year. That was delightful. Poor boys and husbands did nothing, but the girls did something, and it was nice. And then the other thing you need to think about is your future planning. So we just plan one semester at a time. We keep the same basic structure to our co-op, and then we kind of, there's some, I don't know what else to call them other than electives. They're not really electives, but they're things that we swap in and out in those spots. So you can plan the whole school year. You can plan, each semester. You can plan 3 terms where you do a spring, fall, and a summer. Spring, fall, and summer. Yeah, that was the right order. Fall, spring, and summer. The other future planning you need to consider is that when people see something good, they want to be part of it. So preparing for either future growth or preparing for future satellite plants, preparing for some type of a split to share the feast, that might be something that you consider in your preparation. I'm looking at my notes and making sure there's nothing I didn't hit. Oh, time frame. Think about your time frame. Are you meeting for 2 hours? Are you meeting for 6 hours? Are you meeting in the middle of the toddler's nap time? Are you meeting in the morning? Our co-op, we start at 10-ish, and we plan to be done at 12:30. And then we have an optional pack a lunch and stay and play, but you need to leave this person's house by 2. So that way you respect her space, and she has. So it's a full morning. But there are other. You don't have to. 10 was good because it let us get babies up and teenagers up and everybody out the door and the lunch packed and all that. So I don't want to ramble on. Do you guys have any questions about co-op? About starting a co-op? About subjects in the co-op? What subjects do you do? What do we do? I'm glad you asked that. I brought the papers because I was never, ever remember. Actually, I should look at my email. Okay, so here is our basic schedule. At 9:45 we arrive. At 10 o'clock we call it a greet and gather. It's just where we kind of get the kids together in the same basic area. At 10:05 we do a hymn. We do a hymn study, so we sing our hymn. We do a devotion, which we have been using the New City Catechism as a devotion. So the kids are kind of memorizing a catechism and then having a scripture that goes along with that. And then we pray. And then we break up into groups. And so last school year, our groups, we had an upper form and a lower form. And so for us, that was 12 years old and up, and then 11 years old and under. And then we had some little people that played with trucks a lot. So the first class session, if you will, the older kids did Shakespeare and the younger kids did Spanish, and then partway through they did handicrafts. Like we did Spanish for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then we switched to handicrafts for like 4 weeks at the end. They did Spanish for 10 minutes and then handicrafts for 10 minutes. And then the high school, the upper form kids continued Shakespeare because first semester, we only gave them 20 minutes of Shakespeare, and they were very disappointed, and so we gave them 40 minutes of Shakespeare second semester so that because they loved it and they wanted to do more Shakespeare. And so at that point, the younger kids, we did what we called hero tales, where we would just read a story. Sometimes it was a storybook, sometimes it was like a picture book, sometimes it was a biography just of a hero, and then we let the kids kind of narrate. Again, narration in a large group is kind of difficult. We came back together and we had a snack and we did recitations. And so each family in our co-op took a week of recitations and their family was in charge of reciting that week. If you don't know a lot about Charlotte Mason's philosophy of recitations, it's not for the purpose of memorization. It's for the purpose of being comfortable with beautiful language. It's to develop some public speaking skills. And so that's what we did. We gave kids and moms an opportunity to narrate while everyone else was eating their snack. Then we sang a folk song. And then we had I skipped picture study. We also did picture study in co-op. We broke up in smaller groups within our co-op. So like 5 kids-ish? 5 kids and a mom. And we studied the same artist all school year. We had one of the moms that it was her job to do picture study, and she put all the art stuff together for us, and we kind of rotated. Like, we had this picture one week, and then they had it, and then they had it. So it wasn't, we need 25 copies of the same print. It was like, we need 5 copies of the same print. So, so we did picture study, and then we did nature study. So we would have just a quick nature lesson. Sometimes it was about dandelions, sometimes when it frosted, when it was warm weather. I don't know if you remember that this past spring. We got all that frost. Our nature study guru, leader, read us a section out of Farmer Boy about how they went out and they covered up the crops so that they wouldn't get frostbitten, they wouldn't lose their crops. And then we learned about what frostbitten plants look like, and so then on our nature walk, we went out and we looked for frostbite evidence on plants. So that was really cool. And then we come back together, and still in those small groups, we pull out sketchbooks and brush pens and do some nature journaling, nature journaling. Anyway, and some kids spend 10 seconds, and some kids are bringing back specimens to dissect, and so there's the gamut. So, and then we would break for lunch and have our playtime until 2. So that's what we did. So this next school year, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're going to have 3 groups instead of 2 groups. So we have, it's still 12 years old and up, and then we have a chunk that's like 9 to 11. We have a lot of 9 to 11-year-olds. They all happen to be boys. And then we have like a kindergarten through 2nd grade group too. So we have three forms this year, and then what we call the little form, which is the little bitty guys. So, anybody have any other questions? Okay. Yes.
Did you do folk dancing?
We have not done folk dance. We did talk about that, and we've got somebody looking into that so that we can potentially do that next semester. Yeah, because we thought we got a lot of kids. We have a lot of kids, and we have a lot of musical kids, so I feel like folk dance would be a perfect fit. So, yeah. Okay, well, I'll be here for the rest of the evening. If you do have any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. So, thank you very much.